Hello, I'm Betsy Kim, Editorial Director of Lawyers.com. I'm here with Dr. Ankur Saraiya to talk about Breaking Bad. Dr. Saraiya is a clinical and forensic psychiatrist who graduated from Harvard University, then Columbia University School of Medicine, where he also did his residency. He completed a fellowship in forensic psychiatry at NYU Bellevue, where he was also an attending physician for 10 years. As a forensic psychiatrist, he evaluated criminals like those in Breaking Bad. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Saraiya. Can you diagnose some of the characters for us?
Yeah, it's hard to make a full diagnosis, but definitely over the course of the show, different characters demonstrate different traits. And the clearest example is Walter. He definitely exhibits narcissistic traits. And the interesting thing that the creators have done is they've shown us the piece that he feels is missing. And in my opinion, that's the whole aspect of his backstory where he got kicked out of that company that ended up making millions of dollars. And it feels like at least a part of him is trying to capture that fame and fortune that he just narrowly missed out on. Whereas most narcissists, you don't have the benefit of knowing what their missing piece is. And oftentimes they don't know, but they're driven by this internal energy to try to make up for this big absence in their lives. So what we know about narcissists is that they tend to have haughty attitudes, and they're always associating themselves with fame, and they are drawn to very selfish endeavors. It's pretty clear that Todd has sociopathic tendencies. He seems to lack any sort of conscience.
Have you actually diagnosed people like real Todds? Are there real bad seeds out there?
Definitely. And I would say that they are probably the most frightening individuals that I've encountered, or that I do encounter. It's not terribly common, but they are out there. And the main piece is that they just don't seem to experience any kind of not only remorse, but even just the ability to put themselves in another individual's position, that empathy. They just seem to lack it completely. So they have no feelings of guilt and the complete inability to empathize with other people's pain, loss, suffering, even life and death.
From the last episode, Granite State, what seems psychologically realistic? For example, Walt's reaction to, in essence, what was solitary confinement. What does solitary confinement do to people?
Walt is craving that social contact. He dives into that stack of newspapers. He offers $10,000 just to play cards with his helper for that hour. So he's craving that contact because we are social animals. And I think that lack of contact, you also see signs that he's drifting into a depression. He's losing weight. He's taking care of himself less and less.
And what didn't seem realistic to me was Junior's reaction at the school, his screaming and creating that fit. That to me seemed a little far-fetched.
I agree, because Junior has been a character that we haven't really gotten a lot of depth to throughout the entire series. And, I think they're trying to kind of create this Oedipal role. He's sort of stepping up, protecting his mother, and sort of bumping his father out of the picture. So they've sort of created this Oedipal, this triangle for him, but kind of out of nowhere. Marie's an interesting character, not unrealistic, but I think the way that people react to her seems a little bit unrealistic. I think Hank tolerates quite a bit from her, and Skylar, who I believe is the older sister, also seems to follow Marie's lead a lot of the way. You haven't seen a lot of that older sister, younger sister dynamic really played out in a realistic way.
With the characters' profiles in Breaking Bad, what do you see as possible legal mitigation to their crimes?
Walt, Gus, Mike, and even Jack and Todd and their whole crew, they probably aren't in a position to claim mitigation for much of anything for Jesse. He was Walter's student, and certainly is, in general, easily influenced by other people. I think some aspect of that could be brought into his situation with the possibility of some mitigation.
What is it about the view of the criminal perpetrator that people seem to enjoy? In Breaking Bad, Walt is the protagonist in an anti-hero sort of way. And I noticed many of the commercials during the show are for the video game Grand Theft Auto, where the player is a criminal being chased by the police. Is that something where we all kind of have a persecution complex deep inside of us, so we enjoy this? Or is it a vicarious thrill of a situation that most of us will never really encounter in real life?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. And I think that there's a distinction between the two situations. I think in role-playing games, there is always that awareness that it's not real. And so you can kind of throw yourself into and have these experiences that you know, A, you'll never have, and B, don't really have any real-life consequences. But I think the situation with Walt is different, and I think it was intentionally done by the creators of the show. They front-loaded Walt's character to make him overly sympathetic. He gets cancer. He's a new father of a baby girl. He is cut out of this company unfairly and loses the girl and the company and millions of dollars. And I think we as viewers, we connect to that first Walt that we remember. So even when he completely crosses the line and becomes this incredibly evil persona, we still have a hard time forgetting the sympathy that we felt for him. And we try to connect to that initial feeling that we had and root for him and kind of hope that there'll be some redemption. So I think those are two different things going on.
Now, that's really interesting in terms of, I guess, does that happen in real life with people as well? That when you're in a relationship that you should be out of, people harken back to the days when they initially were attracted to the person.
Absolutely, absolutely. It comes up in treatment all the time, where people have a hard time letting go of things that they had before, even when the evidence in the present is that those things are already gone. So people do change, but sometimes it's hard for us to let go of the people we remember.
Without this being a full psychiatric diagnosis, if people have a favorite character on Breaking Bad, what does that say about the viewer? For example, I was a little partial to Hank, and I liked the way he died without making a deal with the devil and basically telling Uncle Jack where to go.
People who like Hank's character, they're going to tend to be people who do like Law and Order, and they tend to root for the guy in the white hat, and they want justice to prevail. I think people who like Jesse, they like the sort of more, they're drawn to the sort of slightly more innocent person who's kind of the follower and can be influenced by other people. People who are drawn to Walt, I think it's not necessarily that they're evil people, but there's certain things about Walt's character that they're drawn to, not the whole picture necessarily, but Walt is certainly a leader and a driver of the action. So people who kind of see themselves as driving the action perhaps might relate a bit to Walt. So you can pick out little aspects of people's personalities, but I would be careful of trying to extrapolate too much. But it's a fun question to think about, and I think you learn a little bit of something about people based on who they like.
Do you usually like people who you identify with in some way? So is that reflective of perhaps a little bit about yourself, or could it be reflective of just what you like in other people? Just say if you're a very nurturing character, you might like more of a helpless character, even though you don't perceive yourself or identify with a helpless person?
Yeah, that's a great observation, and that's part of the reason you have to be careful of over-interpreting it, because that's absolutely right. Because you might be drawn to a character for both reasons, both because you identify, but also because they're the kind of person who is a good counterpart to the person that you are. So absolutely. It could be for both reasons, and you don't know which.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saraiya, for being with us here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.